Alright, so this video is inspired by one of our viewers, and I'm probably going to butcher the name, Valon or Valon. I saw this comment today and I decided that I need to do a video, and I haven't had a lot of time to do videos. Obviously, I think it's been possibly 2 or 3 years, and part of the reason is I don't have the time to plan them, and so I'm going to try something different here, and I'm just going to make something, and I'll try and edit the video and clean it up best I can. But this may not be the cleanest video, but I wanted to get something out there. So thank you, Valon. And again, if I'm butchering your name, I apologize. So one of the technologies I've been using a lot in my day job is Vue.js, and I like it quite a bit, and I think it'd be fun to do a video on that. I wanted to do something more creative. In fact, I think I left a comment on our Facebook page that probably nobody saw, because that's what happens when you don't make videos, about something more creative. But I think I'm just going to do a to-do app, because why not? They're easy to do. No pun intended. So we're going to call this one Tadone. That's the amount of creativity we're going to have. And full disclosure, just to tell you how committed I was to making this video, I already made this video about an hour ago, but it was a disaster, and I realized that my cursor was not being recorded, which I feel like makes it really hard to follow what's going on. So I'm going to take from what I did, and hopefully this will be a lot cleaner than the video that you'll never see anyway. So to begin with, we're going to install Vue, and I'm choosing to use Vue 2, mostly because I attempted to do this with Vue 3, and I'm not as versed in the changes in Vue 3, and I quickly hit some snags. So we're going to go with Vue 2. Vue 2 is great. Vue 3 is kind of new. And if I get around to figuring out the couple of snags I hit, maybe I'll do another video and doing this in Vue 3. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with learning Vue 2. So we're going to hit install here, and we're going to use this command. By the way, it's in a directory that I called Tadone video. We're going to have 2 folders in here, one for the Vue app and then one for something else later that I kind of came up with as I made the first run of this video. So we'll copy this, but copy it from the @ back to npm, or you can just type it in. So I'm going to do npm init vue @2, and this is important. If you do latest, you'll get 3, and some of the stuff I'm doing will not work as nice. We're just going to call this Tadone, and we'll go with all the defaults here. So just keep hitting enter until, boom, now we're done. It's got the app here in this directory. So we'll cd into that. Do an npm install. So it'll install the dependencies for Vue and get us ready to roll. And I guess maybe since most of the things I've done in the past were PHP, I should note that you need Node installed, and I'm sure there's some tutorials out there on how to install Node if you don't already have that, but there's probably a good chance you already do. So let's do npm run dev, and we'll get this up and running here. So it gives us a URL running on our local host. Paste that in here, and I've zoomed in a little bit just because of the screen I'm using, but here you go, the boilerplate new Vue app screen here. So what we're going to do is gut some of this out, First thing being, let's go into the source directory. I'm going to try and explain things as I'm going. And this may not be as in-depth as some of my other ones. Again, just for the sake of getting a video out. So forgive me. So this main.js is what kind of starts the app. It's where the app is initialized. You don't need to be in here too much, but for this, we're just going to go ahead and comment this out. So this will just get us some boring white background, black text. And really, honestly, the main reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to throw my logo in there, and it will work better on the white background. So if we go into assets here, I'm really just going to remove this, and I'm going to sneak over to the app that I already built and grab the SVG code for the digital craft logo, save, and I have to reload. There you go. I did notice that this newer Vite, this is a newer thing for the more recent Vue. For some reason, this reload does not work as well as what I'm used to, but we'll work around it. All right, so my logo's in there. Let's go ahead and we're gonna go, let's look in our app directory here, or app.vue, and hide these messages. So there's a couple things in here that we don't need. We'll probably modify the style here at some point, but this was fine for now. Let's go ahead and we'll get rid of this component here, hello world component, and we'll get rid of the welcome component. And we'll save that. And that means we're pretty much loading nothing. And we'll go ahead and get rid of these. I'm just going to get rid of actually everything in the components directory here. We're going to start clean. And that means we will need to get rid of these imports up here. Save that. All right, so now our app's working again. And in fact, more of a preference for me, I'm going to take the script tag out of here and I'm going to put it underneath the template. You don't need to do this. Again, just something I'm used to. And I'm going to take this setup out. I'm going to take setup out of the script tag. That attribute, I believe, is for the newer Vue.js 3 composition API, which we are going to use the what's called the options API, which is absolutely still supported in Vue 3. I find it easier to wrap your head around what's going on using the composition or the options API. The composition API is definitely very cool and has a lot of benefits, but I do believe it can get really messy. It's not as structured, and for just if you're just learning Vue, I think the options API is much easier to wrap your head around again. So I do have Copilot turned on. This may or may not become a pain, but this has given us a nice boilerplate here, so I'm going to go ahead and take it, and I'll run through what each of these suggestions here are. So name of the app, we'll just call it, we'll keep it as app for now. Components, we'll get rid of this. We're not going to use this just yet. That's for registering a component. And data, this is for the data that runs in our app, that we use in our app, and we'll get into that here in a second. Methods, we'll keep this here because we will definitely use that here later. This is for methods that can be run within the Vue app here. And these are scoped to this particular, the main app, or we can call it a component. Like if we make more components later, this is not accessible without extra doing. So just to give a quick example of what data can do for you, we will add a message and say, yo, where you been hiding? Yeah, that works. And just to show you what you can do with that, so up in our template here, and I guess maybe I should walk through what each of these things are here. So template, this is what's being rendered out on the screen. Script, this is pretty much what controls everything that's being rendered on the screen, for lack of better words. And then style obviously is the style. And the way we have it right now, this is scoped. And what this means is these styles are limited only to what is in this particular template or component. If we made more components later, these styles will not apply. However, if we take this out, then these styles become global across the whole app. We'll go ahead and leave that in for now, but we may change our mind later. So again, all right, so we've got this message data here. Let's go ahead and use double curlies and message. There you go. So basically it's taking the contents of that data and spitting it out here in our template. All right, let's do something really quick. We'll go ahead and add an H1 here, and I'm using Emmet to autocomplete the HTML elements. If you don't use that, I believe it's pre-built into VS Code, so you've probably come across that before already. But anyway, all right. So we'll call this Tadone list. All right. So I'll go ahead. Let's shoot this out a level, and then I'm going to collapse it just to clean things up. All right. Let's just really quick, before we do anything, we'll play with this a little bit later, but let's add Bootstrap. And there's other ways to do this that, you know, if you really get into developing for Vue, there are libraries and such to actually integrate Bootstrap in and allow for customizations, all that. I recommend looking into that. But for this example, we're just going to go to the index here, which is what we're actually seeing here. And we're just going to throw this directly in here, just so we can get things a little bit cleaner looking. Okay. And maybe we will wrap this in a container. Same with main. Okay. So we're working with a to-do app. So let's add some data here. Let's make an array called tasks. And Copilot pretty much has the gist of what I want to do. So before I actually commit to this, basically we're going to create an array of objects. And each object is going to have an ID, a title, and the status of that task. So we'll just go ahead and accept this because that's pretty much what I want. So this data is now available in the app. And we'll take this opportunity to show you a tool which you can install from the Chrome Web Store. If I hit inspect, maybe we'll bring down the zoom on this a little bit. If I click on this View tab here, which you get if you install this tool, click on, there's the root and then our app. And this app, this will show us the data we have here. It even lets you manipulate the data if you wanted to. You change this to true, which isn't doing anything because we're not actually using the data yet. But so you can see our message and our tasks. So let's do something with these tasks. And one thing we can do, and this may suggest it for us, is we can loop through our tasks. So this is great. This is actually copying, or this is coming, this is the beauty of Copilot. This actually looks pretty close to what I already built in the other app, which is open in another code window. So this is crazy. I don't want to take it though. That's cheating. So let's actually, we'll make a div, and we're going to use the v4 attribute, and this will allow us, this will tell Vue we want to loop through something. We'll say task in tasks, and I will go ahead and accept some of this, and then we'll talk about it. Close this up here. Okay, so what this is saying is within this div, for each of the tasks in tasks, call each one task so that we can access it. So it's going to spit out the task title, which we don't actually have a description, so we'll get rid of that. And honestly, I don't even need this. Actually, let's just gut this. Start clean here. I am going to make this into a bootstrap list group. So let's take a look at that. Syntax. So we'll give it a class of list group, and then we'll make a div list item, and we will spit out task title. All right, let's go back to our app. There you go. Each of our items here. And we're going to probably want a checkbox. So we'll do an input checkbox. Save that. All right. So we want this checkbox to be representative of the completed status. So what we can do in Vue, which is pretty cool, is we can bind the checked property to task completed. Okay, so over here, if we open this up, if I change the value of this over here, it's bound to the checked attribute. So it's going to check it. So you can see we're not actually checking the box over here. We're just changing the data within the Vue app, and it is triggering that checked. So, but that's kind of one way at the moment. It's not applying that value. So one thing we can do is we can attach an event. We could say change, and what this at change stands for, basically it's saying when the change event happens, do something, and this something is going to be a method within our Vue app, and we're going to call it toggle task status. Now we can come down here, like if we save this right now, we'll probably get some errors because that status, or toggle task status, excuse me, method does not exist. So let's create it. Get rid of this. We'll send it the task task. Let's log that out. Log task. refresh because we had some errors in there that sometimes you got to refresh to get rid of those errors. So if we toggle this, you can see it is spitting out the data from that task. So we set task to complete. Let's try that out. All right, so you're seeing that actually toggle the data now. If we look at this one's true. Now it's false, true. Okay. So if we were to actually set one of these true in the app and reload, that will already be set to true. Okay, anyway. Okay, so we've got that. Now we should, let's go up here and we'll add an input group, which is a bootstrap class. I'm going to go ahead and accept this suggestion here, and we'll talk about it. I'm not a fan yet of this type of formatting, but whatever, we'll keep it. So we've got an input. We'll go ahead and save it. We'll probably get some errors. Yep. So because this is calling an @click add task, so on click add task, that method does not exist. And the view model, this is a new term here. This is going to bind the value of that input to a variable in our data here. So let's go ahead and create new task and make it an empty string. So that now exists. And let's take this key up. We don't want that. We're going to use the button to add. And let's give this a bootstrap class. All right, so now we need to make that method. We're going to do add task. We'll go ahead and accept this and we'll take a look at it. All right. So what it's going to do is look into this, which this in context would be our data here. So this tasks, it's going to push. The ID is just going to, this is a pretty basic ID system, pretty flimsy actually, but it's going to count how many tasks there already are, add a 1 to it, and that's going to be the new ID. And the title is going to be whatever new task equals, which if we look here, assuming we didn't bust this up too bad, test there. So this value is automatically equal to what is in this field. So we're going to grab that. We're going to set complete to false, and we're just pushing this into this array up here. And then as soon as that's done, we're going to set new task equal to 0, which should clear out this field here. So save that. Let's refresh. And you'll see our errors are gone now. New task. Add. Boom. New task. And you can check it. And that works. Cool. So refresh now. Of course, these don't save. We'll get into that some at a later time in the video. All right, so one thing I might want to do is let's disable this add button if there's no value for a new task title. That way we don't have run the risk of adding empty tasks. And you can do that by binding disabled equals. And when you do this binding, this which is represented by this colon here, you can put in a JavaScript expression or a variable or whatever in here. So we're going to do new task. We're going to check to see that it's not equal to an empty string. And if it is, oh, did that backwards. If it is empty to, if it is equal to an empty string, we want it to be disabled. If not, we do not want it to be disabled. So you'll see this is disabled now until we start typing, and now it is enabled. And we can't add if it's disabled. Cool. Okay, and let's just tidy this up just a little bit. There we go. And I just realized I screwed up these list groups. This should be the item, because this is what's going to be repeated. And we can take this out, and we need to wrap this in a list group. Let's pull that out, put that in there. All right, that's a little bit cleaner. And let's go ahead and we will add a class. Just put a little bit of margin there. All right, so we're kind of cleaned up. Let's talk about what we can do about this data and make it persist. Now there's some tools we can use, which I'm not going to do in this. Actually, I had started down this path in the original video of showing you Vuex, which maybe I'll make another video later. But to speed things along and to not overcomplicate things, I'm going to introduce you to something else, another tool that I've used a little bit in the day job. There's a community version of it, so that's why I'm going to use it. It's a little limited, but it can do quite a bit for what it is, and that is Strapi, which is a headless CMS. And it's pretty easy to spin up. So we are going to do that now. So if we go to Strapi, strapi.io, and let's go to get started. I think it already had the command there. Installation. Let's just get the quick start. Okay, so we are going to run this, and I'm going to pop over to another terminal window here. Okay, so I'm in the root directory here. We're going to paste this, but I'm going to change this name of the project, because that's going to end up being the directory name. We're going to call it Tadone. Strapi. And this may take a minute to install Strapi. So for those who aren't familiar with Strapi, Strapi is what's a headless CMS. So basically, if you're not familiar with that term, this is a way to, it's like kind of think of WordPress without the front end of WordPress. So you can choose whatever your front end or whatever front end you want to build, you can build it. You're not locked into the WordPress ecosystem, which WordPress also has a headless CMS option, by the way. But Strapi is pretty neat, pretty quick. It allows you to create data in a little more unique way. Think of it as like a fancy PHP MyAdmin if you're coming from the PHP and MySQL world, with some really cool data types and way to store your data. But at the same time, not only does it give you that neat interface to store this data, but it automatically builds out an API for you as well. So that's pretty cool too. All right, so this has built our Strapi admin panel here, and we'll just digital craft. And we will make a strong password. How's that? Please do something better than this, but for demo purposes, we're going to use this. Let's get started. All right, we're in. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Go ahead and skip the tour because I know my way around. I'm not going to get too into the specifics of Strapi, but I'm going to show you how to get something up and running really quick. Let's do a content type builder. We're going to create a new collection. So think of this as like a table in a database. We're going to call this tasks, or task, and the plural will be tasks. And we will add a field for text. This will be the title. And it's just going to be short text. Finish. Let's add another field. And we're going to make this a Boolean. We'll call this completed. And come over to advanced settings. Set the default to false. Hit finish. And save. And when we hit save, this is going to restart our Strapi server. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and add some content. So we have tasks here, and we'll create new entry. And save that. And when you're, by default, you need to publish anything you create in here. So we've published that, and that is now available. The next thing we need to do, so there is an API now built, and actually you can see these endpoints being hit here. However, we need to make it accessible to the world. So if we go to settings, and we go down to this bottom area here, and we hit roles under users and permissions, and click on public role. We want to choose our tasks collection, and we're going to allow the public to create, find, and update. And you can actually see here, these are the API endpoints that it creates. So go ahead and save that. So now, if you go to localhost 1377, and you go API/tasks, there is our task. And if you were to come back over here, go to Content Manager, click on Tasks, create a new entry. Hit save and publish. If we refresh, boom. So we now have a public API that will spit out all of our tasks in JSON format. Now we just need to grab it. So to do so, there is some documentation here. Let's see. Click on developer docs. If you scroll down to integrations, there is there is a Vue.js integration here. Pretty much tells you to create a Vue app and how to use either Fetch or Axios. We'll go ahead and use Axios. So let's install Axios. I'll switch over to my other tab here. That's why I have this other window open here. And this should be in our root. Yeah, so cd into Tadone. And we'll do npm install Axios. That way we can use it here in our app. All right. And at the top of our script here, let's go ahead and import Axios from Axios. And bump this out. We want to, let's first get a list of, or get all of the to-dos when the app loads. So we're going to go and add another, we're going to do the mounted hook here after methods. All right, and we're not going to take their code. But we are going to, so we're going to run Axios get, and let's go back over here and we'll just copy this URL. Tasks. All right, so that's going to hit that endpoint and allow us to do a then and the response. So we could, we'll do this here in a second, but let's take a look at what's returned here by doing a console log response data. Go back to our app and the console. Here we are. So this is a little annoying because the response data includes a data array. So there's data actually. So if we actually want to make this cleaner, we'd do response data. There. So here's our two entries. Now the way Strapi does this though is a little bit different than when we have our the way we have our tasks set up. So we'll have to make a couple of adjustments here. The root of the object of each of these items here is just going to have the ID and then attributes, which is all of the fields plus a few. The fields that we added plus some information about when it was created, when it was published, and the last time it was updated. So that is not how our structure is here. But let's go ahead and let's clear this out. So we just have an empty array when initialized. And we will set response data. So we hit save and we'll probably get some issues here. No errors yet, but you're seeing that our data is gone now. So if we go to view and we look, so now this is set up to match the Strapi's data model. So we need to make a couple of adjustments here in our for loop. So we need to add an attributes. So task.attributes, spell it right, not completed, and we'll just go ahead and copy this, paste it wherever we need it. Task title, so attributes title, that's good. And then down here in our task status, we need to make sure this is applied correctly. So that's that. And this will be screwed up, but we'll get to that. So save. All right. So now we have our tasks. There you go. Okay. So now they're updating correctly. So what's next? Now we need to handle how we add a task. So go ahead. We can get rid of the ID. And let's actually not push this. Let's store this in a variable. Task. Then we will Axios dot post we're going to want to copy this URL again. Paste that in there. So the second parameter then is going to be the data, which Strapi wants you to actually send an object with a data object. And in there, we will send the task. And then response. Now we will push the response data, although we want to get rid of this here. Keep this, but let's comment that out and let's just log what is coming back, because I have a feeling we might need to change something. So let's go to our console log. Let's refresh and test. Add. Okay, yeah, as I thought. So just the same as down here, if we want to push this into our actual task, we need to do data.data. Now we can hide that. Save this. Let's refresh. So that actually went in, you can see, because we refreshed. So even though we didn't update our list when we sent it, it did actually update Strapi. So if we click on tasks here, now you can see it set to false. And on that note, if we click on this and we set it to true, if we go back and load our app, boom, marked off. So that's pretty cool. So we are now totally storing data. Brand new task to send to Strapi. Alright, so go back over to Strapi, task, brand new task to send to Strapi. So what is our next step? The next step would be when we toggle a task, that's not doing anything in Strapi. If we toggle it here and we come over and reload this, we have not changed it over here. So that is as easy as another Axios request, and it is going to be put, but we are not going to take the rest of that. Put. And let's copy tasks. And this time we are going to need to throw the task ID at the end of the URL. Actually task ID. And then we are going to send the data, which would be, we will do same deal as before, data, and we will copy task attribute completed for completed. this out, but cut it. Don't remove it because we're going to use then. And we will log that response, but let's go ahead and then we'll set the task that we have here. Actually, let's see what the response is. That here. But let's check to make sure it's a 200. So if response status is equal to 200, then do it. Okay, so remove that. So if it's a 200, it will go ahead and mark this task to be the opposite of whatever it was, which is what we want. So save that. Let's see. Brand new. So if everything worked, the bottom two in Strapi should be set to true. So if we reload this, it is not. So what happened? Let's look at our network tab. Oh. That is because we are setting it to what it was before. We actually need to be doing the same thing here, where we're going to do the opposite of what it was. Okay, let's save that, reload. Okay, turn it off. True, false, false. Which one was it? So test is true. And if we hit brand new, reload. Now that's true. So we are successfully saving these. And just to make sure it still works. We reload and confirm we get okay. And without refreshing or anything like that, we'll hit confirm, or we'll check that one off. Reload. Boom, true. So if I check that and then reload, boom. So we've got the state being stored in the Strapi app. Now, Strapi may be way more than you need for a simple to-do app, but there's a lot more cool stuff you can do with Strapi, so I thought I'd introduce it to you, at least give you a little taste there. Let's see. One other thing we could do is, let's go down here in the style. Let's create a class called task completed. And yeah, we'll just do line through for the decoration. So we can wrap. This is kind of giving away what I want to do, but we'll do span. Let's take our title, cut that out, stick it in here, and we'll bind class to check if the task attributes completed is equal to true, then return task completed as the class name. Otherwise, nothing. Boom. So there we go. Now we can actually check them off, strike them out, reload. Boom. So that's a neat way to quickly make like a dynamic class change there. So again, so all this is doing is it's populating the class attribute with the result of this logic here. So if completed is true, give it this class. And if you wanted to have a task incomplete, first before I save that, we'll inspect here. So you can see task completed, and this one has none, no class. So we hit save. Now you can see the ones that are completed have completed, the ones that are not incomplete. So if you wanted to do something fancy there, you could. Before we wrap this up, let's do a couple other fun things. Let's look at computed properties. So computed, this allows us to kind of, actually I'm going to take this, but I'm going to comment it out for a second because that's pretty cool. Total tasks. So this allows you to create basically another data item, but make it kind of dependent on some other things. So this is what I want. I want a list of the total tasks. If I save this, we go to view here. Now we have this new item computed, total tasks 5. So what we could do here is maybe let's just make it div and that's another way you could do it, just the task length. But I want to do more fun stuff with it. So total tasks. So again, this works just like the data items here. So 5. So if we add a new one, it will automatically update that. And let's go ahead and uncomment these because this is kind of cool too. So this is going to, we need a comma here. This is going to add 2 more computed properties called completed and incomplete. So we could do tasks. Let's do completed. And of course, Copilot's going to figure out what we want. If you haven't tried Copilot, that sucks because now it's not free anymore. I have it through my work. Okay, so this actually did not work the way I thought. That is actually grabbing. So this is kind of cool too. This is actually grabbing all of the completed tasks. What I actually want is the length of them, not the data. So we're going to tack that onto the end here. There you go. That should update as we go through and check boxes. Reactive data is pretty cool, and so are these computed properties. So there. Now you have made a Vue app and you've been introduced to a pretty easy to spin up and use headless CMS. There's a lot more again you can do with the Strapi CMS, and you can get a lot out of it without having to go to the paid tier. Mostly I think you're just kind of limited to some of the roles and permissions you can apply to users, but if you're just trying to do a nice quick way to store some data, and honestly like the data can be They've got a lot of neat types like rich text. It can be images, URLs, various neat things that you don't get out of a generic or the what we're used to with like PHP and MySQL, or sorry, the MySQL database and things like that. It's pretty neat. At some point, I will probably clean this code up and throw it up on GitHub. I'm probably going to need to. I'll probably need to make some config changes here so that you're able to put in your URLs, because depending on, like, this may stay the same, so this may actually work for you as long as you don't have everything running on that port. But I do believe the port that Vue is going to run on, I think by default usually it's 3000. I must have something else running, I don't know. But yeah, so this is pretty cool. This is just a glimpse at what I've been up to in the last many years since I've been away, and I hope I can share more, and hope this format worked for you guys. Thanks.